Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Well, I've got a girl that's lived a very juicy life and interviewed very juicy people. It's Catt Sadler. She has her own show now, her own podcast called Naked.
Mm-hmm.
And she's gorgeous with no makeup on because she's here. She looks so cute.
Oh.
And we've known each other throughout the years of E and when she was always on E and many other jobs. And we're going to get into her whole juicy life.
I'm so glad to get juicy with you.
And you have two boys.
Yes.
And I have two boys. And we've seen each other at like the good seats at the Laker game when we get invited once in a while.
I know it's been, you said you were just there.
So I
haven't been invited in a while. What's up with that?
Neither have I. Okay, so then, but last night they're like, oh, it's Laker Pride, meaning like for pride, LGBTQ. And our friend who works the Laker stuff, a PR person friend of ours, was like, oh, and we'd like you guys to come. So I was so hungover from going out to a birthday party on Tuesday night. I was like to my husband, I'm like, I go, but if you get 4 tickets, we'll bring the boys and I'll go. But if you only have 2, just take Drake, my older son, and I'm just gonna like crawl into bed and die. So then he's like, Drake's like, well, I mean, he was being such a brat. He's like, if we go to the captain's room, he's like, it's usually not a place that I never have a seat. Like he was being a total dick about it. So Peter's like, forget it, you're out. And then he goes, well, now I want to go. Wait, LeBron James, now I want to go. And I go, good. I hope you learned a lesson about being like an ungrateful little dick. Like, I mean, anyone would die for this. So then he was all bummed because then Peter called the PR person and they said, no, Heather has to be there.
Oh, it's
like
one
nobody
of those,
wants my weird family without me. So I'm laying there. I'm so tired. And Peter's like, God, I really wanted to go.
Then they can't go if you don't go.
And I was like, all right, let me go. But I'm sitting in the back. I had to listen back to my podcast. So I sat in back. So he was a chauffeur. And we pushed the whole front seat forward. I was literally like being chauffeured. And we went. And it was still really fun. I mean, it's good. It's a fun thing to do. So I'm like, hopefully next time we'll bring the boys. I'll say, make sure you invite Catt.
Yes,
and her
I don't
boys.
come unless Catt comes.
Yes, and Catt's boys, and then the boys can all talk to each other, and then we can like have an okay time.
I didn't realize how close in age they were too.
Yes,
like,
so
cool.
Yeah, your boys are a senior and a freshman in high school. And mine are right behind you, a junior and an 8th grade.
Yeah. I love that.
Yes,
so we'll do basketball. We'll go.
Absolutely.
We'll do that. And you look very rested for having been hungover yesterday and then up early today to do this with me. So thank you.
I had a good
She has
night's sleep
lashes
last night.
on.
Yes.
You look like gorgeous. I barely got my zit covered up on my face. That's the only makeup I have. So there you go.
So where did you grow up? Where did your whole career start and everything?
Yeah, I'm an Indiana girl.
Okay.
I'm from the Midwest. My upbringing was split between partly in Indianapolis, which was considered the very big city, where I'm from. And then my latter half from about 11 on was in a town called Martinsville, Indiana, which is fairly small. I mean, it's like, I think 40,000 people. So there were some stoplights, but by all, considerations, it's farmland and crops.
And growing up, like, what was your aspiration? Was it to be on TV, actress, model, writer? What was it?
Something in that arena for sure. I was in all the plays. I was in musicals. I was in a band. Like, I love performing more than anything.
Did you play an instrument?
No, I was always a singer. I love dancing. Like, it's so bad. I was in a band called the Gypsies. That came a little bit later. It was horrendous. We were like backup dancing and singing the whole thing. But
as a teenager?
That came when I was like 18. When I was in college, I was also
Where'd you go to college?
IU, Indiana University. So literally just 10 minutes down the road from my very, very small town. But I knew then, like, just like in high school and everything, I was always kind of directing. And that's when home video cameras were like the only way you could record anything. How old am I? But that's what I did for fun. I literally, in addition, I actually liked school. I was a pretty decent student. But that's what we did. We made shit up, basically. I would cast my friends and we'd do fake hairspray commercials or, we'd create these dramas. We were always just playing make-believe and then recording it. So I didn't know what that would translate into later in life. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even that savvy. I just knew that's what I enjoyed. So
then how did you end up in LA and being, the red carpet queen, gorgeous girl? That title. Thank you, Heather. Red carpet queen. Yeah.
It was a long journey, but I'll try to make it a quick story. I finally declared a major in college to study journalism, broadcast journalism, because I was obsessed with like Oprah and I watched the Today Show. And I was like, how can I tell people stories? Because acting seemed like, for me, I'd never even been to California. That seemed like a total pipe dream. I think that's at my core what I really wanted to do. But I was like, oh, well, broadcasting, like that's like being a performer, really. Like, you're a version of yourself, but it's also storytelling and writing and editing and all that. So I declared my major in journalism. Then I secured an internship at a local like TV station. And that's when I kind of got the bug. 10 years of local news, both in Indianapolis and then also San Francisco, which was my first full-time reporting job as like a 22-year-old. That's when I just completely immersed myself in like live television and like reading a prompter for the first time in front of like the San Francisco market, which was a pretty big market. And I just kind of learned the ropes through 10 years of local news. Before then, 2 kids later, at about 30-something, was like, I want to go to Hollywood. And that's when I kind of
did you and your husband then at the time and the 2 boys, you moved from San Francisco to LA?
We were back in Indianapolis because after Austin was born, I got that real like, I think I want to go home. I want to like be a mom. And I didn't want to be so far away from all of my family and my mom and all that. So I took 1 year off in the last 20 years, truly. And that was when Austin was a baby. And so we went back to Indianapolis. I got back on TV there. And then, so we were in Indianapolis. My husband at the time, he had left his job to start. He was kind of like the finance guy in my brother's fashion business, which was manufactured in LA. So we had all these little, I was like itching, like, what if maybe Hollywood, maybe I would watch E and I would say, I can do that. I want to do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, but if I don't try, I'll never know. And so that's literally how that was
So you
born.
come back to LA, and did you submit a tape? Did an agent submit you?
I did not move here till I got the job on E as a mom of 2 in Indiana. No joke.
By sending in a reel?
My agent just got me a meeting. And my first meeting just went really well. And they were like, well, damn, we kind of like her. And guess what? We're casting this show called The Daily 10. Will you fly back out here? I just was like, for really? Really? Fly back out and audition for this show. And when I got to that audition, everybody in the room were already nationally known faces that I was at home watching on television.
So that was like Juliana Rancic.
Yeah. Well, no, she wasn't on that show. She was on E! News at the time.
Okay, so who was doing your Daily 10?
So eventually who was casted was myself, Sal Masekela, who was from X Games ESPN fame at the time, and then Debbie Matenopoulos from, who claimed to fame was The View.
The first girl on The View, the young one.
The young fiery one.
I think that was right around the time that Chelsea lately started around, because we started, our show started in 2007.
Okay, then we launched in 2006.
Okay.
And I remember those early days of, because I believe, this was right before Chelsea was really like blowing up at E! Or before she got her show. We would have her on the Daily 10. She would come in and do like little bits, or we would at least interview her about her. I think she had a book out by then. She'd already obviously done stuff, but that's right when she was kind of born into the whole E! family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you did that.
Then I saw you in the halls, of course.
Yes, I saw you. And then when did your marriage end to the boy's dad?
So Kyle and I, we divorced in 2007. So a year after I got to E!, a year after we had moved to California.
Was it like, what was it? What was your aha moment that like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore this way?
God. We got together really young. So I was like 19, he was 18, and we'd been together 12 years. We had kids young. We'd been together. We'd had that journey. We were really good friends. Nothing too like salacious happened. I think there were some indiscretions at the end, but that wasn't really why. I think it is one of those cases where it's like, I loved him as a person. I loved him as a friend. It's that cliche, we grew apart thing. And it's like we weren't connecting. And I don't know how much like LA played a part of that. Like our whole life we got here. And then, I was consumed in this, flashy TV job, and he, worked in like the business world, and there was just this real crazy divide. But let me tell you, that wasn't easy to let go of. I mean, that was my best friend, my college sweetheart, the father of my children. So I was very much for like, well, we should at least get some therapy. And that didn't even happen.
You didn't even try for the therapy?
He didn't. He
was like,
down.
I'm done.
I think he was in like a real denial and like maybe even a sadness. Like it was just one of those things where he couldn't meet me there. And so if we couldn't work on it, I was like, well, where do we go? We couldn't fix it. So yeah, we divorced.
So, and was it okay after that? Like as far as like shared custody, was it friendly?
Mm-hmm. I would go as far to say it's like people don't believe how friendly we are. Like we have managed to be that couple.
That's
awesome. I say couple like we're still married. Sometimes I feel like we are. We have co-parented since the kids have been little. And I think it's because I even always say, I've said this 1,000 times, but I like to say we consciously uncoupled before Gwyneth and Chris. Because we really were that couple prior to their breakup. Because I was like, we can do it. We can be friends. Like, let's do it for the kids. Like, let's just move on.
I just think what it is, why that's a rarity, is because I think it's very rare that two people are on the same page about breaking up. And it isn't that one person found someone else or one person feels they're being slighted. And it's like one of those things just like, why did that television show work for, 12 years? It's because the writers worked with the casting. Every single person gelled like a Frasier or a Cheers. And that's why it's rare, because it's rare that everyone feels the same way.
Yes. That's such a good point, because I always feel, I don't think I'm like, oh my God, we're better than other people who divorced, because you're right. It took us being on the same page. It took his now wife, who is very much on the same page. It took my second husband being on the same page, that we all were just like, okay, this is how we're doing it. And if you're not on board, then you're not going to be a part of this group. Like you're not going to be part of this clique. And hats off to him, because, Sarah, his wife, and I work together now. She's one of my dearest friends. But had she not been, it takes one bad apple to fuck all that up, right?
Right.
Then it's like everybody loses.
Really? You're leaving for his game tonight?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's just, like, when is it going to be my turn? Like, you can't have a stepmom like that.
No.
Because they're stepping into this role and they have realized that these are kids and all of that. So then so now you're single lady, ripping it at night, going to the e-parties.
Not wrong.
Okay. And
that was a good season.
That must have been kind of fun.
Was fun.
I would think that'd be kind of fun.
fun.
Did stars, and you don't have to say their names, but did you ever get with anybody that you interviewed?
Did I ever get with anybody?
Or strong flirtation? Or you had to change your underwear after an interview?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know that anyone's ever even asked me that. I really don't. Because I used to say, looking back, I was like, man, maybe I was like stupid or naive, but I never really crossed that. I never played that card. I'm so...
Not that you'd play the card, but sometimes it just could happen.
No,
I would
it
think
didn't
that there was
really
an attraction.
happen. Not really. I mean, not really. I could even say, I hate even saying this out loud, but whatever. Because this was about that time in that season. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, ew, because a lot of people have had this experience. But I definitely had an exchange on one award night.
With Harvey?
Oh, God, no.
Oh.
Not that bad. Jeremy Piven, one of those.
Oh, God, Jeremy Piven.
I know.
I mean,
I've heard what girl hasn't had an exchange with Jeremy Piven?
It was like every time, and I've talked about this, every time I went out from my 20s, and I got married at 30, and then I'd go out like once in a blue moon in my 30s for some gal's birthday, and we'd go to like the hot spot. Every time I went out, Jeremy was out. And he never had a friend. He doesn't even bring a wingman. That's amazing. Okay, so he was
But at the time, it was like, it was a certain time. It was like a little, an entourage moment. I always loved that movie Serendipity. I was like, I kind of get it. I kind of get that. But
definitely.
That was
He's charming.
Never anything. It didn't turn into anything.
But it was a little flirtation.
I wish I had a better story. I wish I would have.
So then
how come I never got to Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
How did you...
Not that he'd...
And then how did you meet your second husband?
So after getting my groove back, because let me tell you, when you have been with someone for 12 years and you wake up in your like early 30s, you're like, do I even know how to do this after 2 kids? Like, can I even kiss another guy? Do I know what that feels like? Like, I was faithful.
Who was the first person? You don't have to say their name, but who was your first?
I'll tell you.
Because all my friends that are divorced, so I'd be like, tell me about the first new dick that entered you.
Yeah.
Like, after being with someone for that long, what was that like?
I'll tell you. And it was just a kiss the first time, because it took me a minute to even know how to literally do all that again. But It was my hairdresser at E. No, I kid you not. God love you, Christian Mark. I hope you don't mind me telling this story, but he's like this French, half Vietnamese, like tatted up, my version of Johnny Depp, who at the time had always been my like.
Was he half straight,
crush.
half gay, or was
no,
he
he's fully straight?
Full straight,
just very
full
artistic,
blown.
very cultured. He was like everything that I'd never experienced. Right. I went straight for the jock farm boy that I knew from Indiana. That's who I was married to for 12 years, and I was like Christian with the accent, and I was like, he was doing my hair. It's a true story. The night before was it my first Oscars? It may have been covering my first Oscars for E. And the night before, it was like going from friendship to something more. And he's like, let's meet for a drink down at the Roosevelt before, because I stayed there the night before because you get up at like 4 a.m. and then they were doing the Oscars. And that's kind of when it happened.
Full, like,
no, not sex, just kissing. Even kissing for me. I was like, literally, can I even put my lips on? I hadn't done it. That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
And he came back like riding a bike.
Oh, yeah, it did. I was like, okay,
and
I got it.
And then when did the boning happen?
Not that night, but certain weeks to follow, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, this was like 10 years ago.
And then how long was
really
this going on for?
We had a thing off and on for like
after
a year.
You had sex and had bedhead, would he fix it?
He never. No, I don't. I should have like taken full advantage of that. I don't think I did. I just remember him smelling really good, and he was like this departure. It really was like the
most opposite person.
The Unfaithful movie, with
Diane
Lane
God,
and the French guy
movie on earth.
That's what it felt like.
The book guy selling the books.
He was an artist, and he was free, and he was like would wear jewelry. Like, he was just so not my standard guy, and so it felt like an escape that I very much deserved. How
long did that go on for?
It went on for, I want to say, almost a year. And he, funny enough, was going through the exact same thing. He was going through a divorce. He had one son. So we kind of like bonded over even just like leaving our partners. And it was
so then how did it end? And was it awkward then? Did he stay?
I've never talked about this ever.
Did he stay your hairdresser at the station at E?
Yeah, it was friendly. It was one of those things. It was just kind of, he traveled all the time for work. He would like be in China.
Did you guys say I love you, or it was strictly like a boning friendship?
That's such a good question. I don't think we ever said I love you. I don't think we did.
So how long did he stay your hairstylist after the breakup?
He honestly, his career was like blowing up, and so he would be doing all these like editorials for like Vogue and shit, and like didn't care about E. So it wasn't like he stopped. He was never a full-time person at E anyway. He would just come in on award shows because he was like a bigger deal, and you know how that goes. Like, he demands more pay, so he wasn't like on the payroll regularly at E, but he would like come in and out. So,
and when you would do the award show, how would you choose your gowns and stuff? Did people come in and help you? Did you have to do your own thing?
I think that's one of the things that he always did the best, at least in the news division, is that we always had the best stylists. Like, they would like invest in that, because I think obviously he, especially once upon a time, was known for everybody looking amazing, and the hair and the fashion and the whole bit. So I would have a stylist. Back then it was Monica Rose. Do you know Monica?
Yeah.
She did the Kardashians for a while. She has Chrissy Teigen. Now she does Shay Mitchell. She's amazing. She's still a very good friend of mine. But she did me for a period. And then I now still work with the last girl that did me at E, a girl named Becca Jefferson. Becca Gross is her now married name. But they would always team us up with them on award shows. And you spend, weeks in advance. And they go to all the showrooms or the designers or the PR firms, and they pull 50 dresses, sometimes 30, sometimes just 12, but then we go in and we start trying on, and that's it.
And so now you got your groove back, you remember how to bone, and then how do you meet your
not just bone.
Husband.
I'm good at it, Heather. Okay, remember how good I am at boning?
Yeah.
And then how did I meet Reese? Is that your question? My second husband. So Reese, he was
very good looking.
Yeah, he is a cutie. Reese and I met on Cinco de Mayo in 2010 at a charity event at the Sky Bar.
Oh, I love Sky Bar.
I haven't been there in years. Is it still like?
I don't know if it's still happening.
Yeah,
I mean, but
once upon a time, right?
But it was really good, like in the late 90s. Yeah. But it was always like a cool place to go because you're literally the view and everything. So if it's a warm night, it's like a great place to get a drink.
Yeah, like back then it was like Randy Gerber. Because does he still own it? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, and you still see Cindy like showing up once in a while, checking up on him. Yeah.
So checking up on him. caught that. I was just at the Sky Bar, and my friend was DJing. That's why I went, and I was there with a handful of girls because it was margaritas are my favorite,
Yeah.
and it was Cinco de Mayo, and we were sipping our tequila, and in walked this kind of group of guys, and I did see him across the room. I was like, that guy is really hot, and my friend Adriana was like, oh yeah, he's hot, but I was like, he's really skinny. He is, and love you, Reese, but he was I just remember thinking he was really thin. Anyway, he sits down, makes his way over to talk to me, and then I realized he was British. So he's Welsh actually, but he has this, strong British accent, and that was all she wrote. We were pretty on from the moment we met. 3 weeks later, I was in London with him meeting his parents.
And so you get married for the second time, and you're with the British guy. What does he do for a living?
At the time, he was an independent filmmaker. So he was in film. That's why he was in LA. He lived in London. So there was a long distance back and forth. He was trying to get all these movies made. And I was on E, and we actually got married in Vegas, which I never ever thought I would ever do.
Where in Vegas?
In the Palazzo Hotel, just the two of us, except for the guy that married us. No joke. It was very private.
Was it planned when you went to Vegas?
Yes.
Was it okay? Was it like you decided after 14 drinks?
No, but we didn't tell anybody. We're just like, he was back and forth on a plane for, every month, and it was exhausting. We're like, if we're going to do this and you're going to live here and we're ever going to know if we can have a life together, we got to do this, because he would have to go back, because of his visa and everything.
So the marriage was good for how long?
I think we were married 8 years. God, this is so cathartic to talk about. This one I've never really talked much about, but how long was it good? It was good. I would say the first couple years were probably the best, like with any marriage, 3 years, 4 years. And we just started to have some real lows. And again, that oh God, I thought we were so good together. When we were good, it was really good. And it was bad, it was just really bad.
Yeah.
And
so were your kids then starting to get affected by the fact that you guys weren't getting along?
Well, bringing it back to thank God for their father, I mean, the truth is, Reese never tried to fill any shoes, right? So he was, yes, by definition, their stepdad, but he was great. He was a good friend. He loved them so much. He was very involved to the point that he needed to be. But they were really tight with their dad. So they weren't particularly, of course, Reese lived in our home. And when it started to dissolve, of course, that affects children.
Yes.
But they weren't overly hurt by it not working out, because it wasn't like their dad was leaving again,
Yeah.
They were okay.
It's just so
they're
interesting.
Still very close with their dad.
It's so interesting because my stepdaughter, her mom had a boyfriend for a very long time. And there was a long distance of driving, they were out 2 hours away, who knows with traffic, right? So the boyfriend would drop her off back and forth a lot. And when they broke up, and she was probably 10 or something when they broke up, 10 or 11. And I said, are you sad about, so your mom breaking up with, and she goes, no. I go, not at all. You kind of spent a lot of time with him. She's like, I already have a dad.
Wow.
Which I thought was kind of nice for my husband. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, this guy spent a lot of time in the car driving this little brat around. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think every family relationship can be different, and some people feel like, no, my stepdad's who raised me, and they have it. So every story, that
was my story.
Yeah,
always stepdads were my dad.
Yeah, so it was but that was good. So then,
and I do to your point. Ryan, my youngest, I mean, he was 5 when Reese came into the picture, so I think it for sure affected him more than my oldest. I think it also depends on the age of the child when they come into your life and whatnot, and they stay in touch. I mean, again, that's the beauty of, I don't know what I've done right to at least with both of my husbands, after you get through the shit of it and after you realize, if it's over, it's over, there really has been the whole forgiveness thing, and we talk, and there's a respect factor there that has just really saved us, so that I don't have to live in this bitter place. I know he isn't either, and he still is even comes and gets my dog sometimes, and the kids.
So financially,
sometimes.
The dissolvement, it wasn't ugly.
No, it was so easy. It was straightforward, over and out.
So you're killing it on
But not fun,
You're,
by the way. I mean,
right,
divorce
no.
is freaking hard. I don't want to paint this picture it's so easy
No, but
and rosy.
some people have a cleaner break, and other people it goes on, it's War of the Roses, and it's, two sides of lawyers and all of that, and it can go on for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But so now you're on E, your co-host is Jason Kennedy. We've been watching you for years. You're on multiple shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? This is the part, everyone. This is the juicy part.
Yeah. I mean, the multiple shows thing really played a factor because in the end, I was working longer hours and more shows and had more airtime than ever even before within the last year.
Because now at this point, Juliana has left.
Yep.
So you really are the female face, and he is the male face, Jason Kennedy.
Yeah. I mean, we were positioned that way for sure.
Yes.
It's like anytime there was this TCAs or
a
press event, it's like we would go together. The joke was like TV wife. Even though, I was on this other show and had other co-hosts now too in the morning, in addition to being on E! News at least 3 nights a week. We'd been there the same amount of time. We'd, like you said, we'd come up together. We were very much, we were very much equals. Love that word.
Yeah.
And so it was brought to my attention in February of my last year there from a female executive who just said, closed the door and said, you should know that you are severely underpaid in comparison. Severely. And so that, of course, just like ding, 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 like light goes off. I had work to do to find out if that were in fact the case. And to Jason's credit, I mean, he told me it was in fact.
So you
true.
just asked him.
I did. I said,
you're like, what do you make? And
you don't have to tell me, but we were very good friends.
Yes.
I mean, we were so close. And so he was like, I'll tell you right now. Like you deserve it. Go ask for it. Get it, girl. It was it was that what I thought was going to be somewhat simple. And my contract was coming up at the end of the year. I had been on the 2 shows then for that year. And I was like, great, we're just going to ask for what I think I deserve. We're going to get ballpark.
Now, are you getting your agent involved in this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there any part of you that was like, wait a minute, I think this might be my agent's fault. Like, why don't I have as good a reputation as Jason? Because when I first heard of the story, I was like, look, this shit can happen. I had a job. I worked on Chelsea Lately. I never asked for a raise because I was afraid to get fired.
Yep.
I never asked for a title change because I was afraid I'd get fired. And guess what? I never got it.
Yeah, because you didn't
I never
speak
got
up.
it. So I was like, it's my fault. And I didn't, at that time, I had managers and agents that were like, let us be part of this. Because I got the job without representation. So let us be part of this. You're going to have to pay us commission, but we can help you do this. And I kind of was like, knowing the vibe of that place, I was like, no, that'll piss them off. That now all of a sudden, Heather, the writer girl that thinks she's a movie star, is going to have, so I didn't do that. But so
you never then asked.
I never asked. I made the exact same amount on year 7.5 that if a brand new writer was hired would make. And they did. And those people asked for days off. Those people asked to do a stand-up on a television show, and they let them. And I asked, and they said no. So, I kind of
because you suffered from what so many of us do.
Yeah.
And yes, the onus for sure. There's an accountability factor that falls on me, that falls on my team, without question.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first thing that went through my mind was, I feel so stupid. How did I not know that? Like, I never asked. I never thought to ask.
What was the story with Michelle Williams doing the Getty, all the money in the world? Her people didn't negotiate for reshoots as well as Wahlberg's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just not having a good team. That's also you not yelling at your team like a man
not
might.
Directing your team.
Yes. But it's also them being a little lazy.
Yeah. Well, the way it works with our contracts and had worked, because I had been there 12 years, is you really don't. It's not like you're renegotiating every year. It's like it's locked, it's locked. So like I had like a 3-year contract and then a 4-year contract. So this was only the 3rd time I'd really, I think, ever even had to negotiate.
Right.
So when I got that information and thought it would be power, I immediately said to my team, by the way, of mostly all men, I said, we're getting ballpark or I'm walking. And even my own team was like, do you really mean that? I was like, oh, no, I do. Like, that's how hard I work. That's how convicted I am on my worth. That's how much I believe in myself. Like, if they can't meet me ballpark, mind you, I wasn't saying to the dime even. I was just like, get me in the freaking ballpark. That's fair. Knowing that in the past this was going to be a large jump to even match the disparity because I had been underpaid for so long, right? So knowing that that's a big ask for any company to go, we're just going to wake up overnight and pay you double what you were making. I'm a reasonable person. But they wouldn't move, and after months of negotiation and asking for that, and they're like, sorry, it's just not going to happen. So
well, do they offer you any more, like a little jump, but
just
not
just what they always would,
like
nothing,
the 3%?
Yeah, nothing It was nothing, especially that I was doing 2 shows, especially that I was on 2 hours a day live, like all those things taken into consideration. I was coming in at 7, it was just like, it's not fair. I felt so convicted in the wrongdoing. That's why I was like, I will walk. I'll work again. I'll do TV. I'll create TV. I have my digital brand, and thank God I did.
Yeah.
Because that's what sustained me, especially because I realized not everyone can just go, fuck it, and leave their job.
Right.
I mean, it's a great job, and it was a wonderful job, and it was good money. It just wasn't the right money.
That's exactly what was with me. It's like people are like, well, if you weren't happy, why didn't you quit? Oh, I'm sorry. There's a bunch of jobs for women over 40 that can talk about the Kardashians and be on TV and still be home to have dinner. Show me. I wasn't going to rock that boat, but at the same time, then I also felt, well, I can't complain. And when I do, like in speeches that I just did something for women, I was like, look, you guys, be the man. That I was the only mom. I'm sure you were one of very few moms. And I never wanted to play the mom card. So I missed the T-ball games and all this stuff. Then they hired Josh Wolf.
We call that the penalty tax, the motherhood penalty tax.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing that mothers endure. It's that invisible labor that we're never paid for, but that keeps us, like you just said, you made all the sacrifices away from your family because you're so living in fear that they'll just kick you to the curb anyway. We're disposable, and they'll get somebody else.
Right.
And they'll pay them less.
And so, since I was there from day one, then all the men started having their babies, and so they would leave for the 3-month pediatric appointment and this and that, where I'm like, your wife's at home. Both parents need to go to the pediatric appointment. Like, that's nice, but like, come on. Oh, he's the greatest dad. And then they hired Josh Wolf, who I love. And they wanted him to be a writer and more of a on-air presence than just being on the panel. And he was like, okay, but I'm leaving when Jacob has a game. I'm da-da-da-da. Jacob's 14, okay? When I realized that he was like leaving on a Monday at 3 o'clock to go to Jacob's game, and everyone's like, hope he wins. Let us know if he got a home run. It was like, Heather, you're the dumbest fucking person. And it's not Josh's fault.
Did you ever ask and then were denied, or did you just never even ask to go to a field trip or to go to the whatever? I mean, I can't even tell you because I know that feeling.
It's a weird dynamic between the upper people and me, and I have discovered I am a fear-based person. I'm Catholic. I'm scared of authority. I mean, my friend who works with me now helping book Danielle, she's been my trainer for years, and she was a mom that would come to my house in the morning, and she'd be like, you don't know how much you would talk about the one time you had to leave. How I would plan to say, can I leave at 5:50? Like the amount of time that I would try to put it in my head. How am I going to say it? Should I write the email now? Do I walk by his office? Like just that. And it's not their fault. Like it's like I try to tell women entering the workforce and moms especially, like, it's really hard then to change the dynamic when you've been a doormat and you've never called. Like I never called in sick, and these guys would be like, well, my kid's sick, so I'm staying home tonight with a wife that was like not working. And it was like, and even my husband would be like,
you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
And we as women are primarily team players, and we work late nights, and we do weekends, and we're yes people, and we're, by the way, just lucky to get the job. But bringing it back to exactly what you just said, be the man. I mean, we have to make that cultural shift. And it does start with us individually. To your point about, like, you have to ask. And it is hard, especially in our industry and what you're describing. Like, we know what a coveted job we have.
Right. And you know it by asking, too, which is the fear. And I tell people this, too. Get ready because get ready who you disclose your unhappiness with. Nobody in HR is your friend. Your boss is not your friend. Right. And no matter how cool they act, then they start to go, well, now we have someone who is unhappy and has one foot out the door. So we need to get them to quit. God, it just seems like you've got so much other things going along. You still want this little dumb thing, and next thing you know, you're walking out with not even unemployment insurance payments because you essentially quit when you're like, that wasn't my intention. You have to be very, very smart about it, especially today with a big company and Me Too and the words you use to describe anybody. Then all of a sudden they're like, are you accusing abuse or harassment? Because you're just like, because you said it. You said it once. It's like, well, now we have to report this. Now we're down this road, which we've seen happen with other TV personalities. So when they finally said, okay, well, this is it, and you chose, well, then forget it because you were standing by. Then where, and this is a hard, honest question, where did the mornings of regret come? Did you have some regret? Did you go, what? Did I play this too hard? Is this too hard to now go on my own? I don't have the studio to walk in. Someone isn't doing my hair. Someone, I don't have the health insurance.
I, Heather, sit here in complete honesty and tell you I have not had an ounce of regret.
That is great.
I swear to you.
I believe you.
Do I miss glam? Hell yeah. But do I regret leaving? Not a minuscule.
That's
Have
great.
there been periods where, now I'm paid in a whole new way. I don't have a paycheck every 2 weeks. Now I am my own boss. I'm building my own brand again. Like, do I have moments where I'm like, well, it's good this month, but what happens in 6 months if this isn't here? How do I still feed my kids and live my lifestyle that I'm accustomed to? Of course.
A similar career trajectory. It wasn't my choice that the show ended, so I was never fired or anything, which made that easy because I always thought if I did leave, there were times I wanted to, and I thought if I did leave and then it didn't pan out, how could I live with myself when I have these kids and all this other stuff? And so I never did. So then actually when Chelsea, was unhappy and ended our show actually 6 months earlier than it was supposed to, or several months earlier than it was supposed to, when she chose to do that, I was like, thank God, thank you, because I'll never quit. They were chipping away. I wasn't on the show as much. They were like, I went from being on 1 day a week to every other week to now once every 3 weeks. So I'm like, if this show went on for another 5 years, I probably would only make an appearance if I was going to impersonate someone. Like I could feel that coming of like, they literally came into me, the producers, and they were working on Ross Matthews. He had a show for a minute on E! And they're like, we need a younger Heather McDonald. Do you know anyone that's a young, literally said, do you know what we want? We need that. We need you, but younger. That likes pop culture and is obsessed with this stuff. Do you know? That's funny.
And they're asking you.
They asked me.
Okay. That's nice. What did you say?
I said, I'll keep my eyes out. I don't know. I go, I don't know. We haven't really found someone. You guys, get pitched every day comedians to be on the panel, and you guys haven't found someone like me.
And they need younger. Why?
Because then that person can work for 20 years, or I don't know. I can work for 40 more. But it
sounds like your work ethic's really poor, Heather. Like, right?
Yeah. And afterwards, people were like, "You're married. You have. I thought you were my age. You have married. You had kids." It's like I never made it. Like I'm the old mom. Like I was on the panel with everybody else in like a cleavagey top. So were you. I mean, I think people were always shocked to hear that you had these boys until they saw you on a red carpet. They're like, that gorgeous, tall, skinny model is like that as a mom. Like I remember, I was shocked when I heard it.
Oh, really? Well, that's nice. But you're right in that you have to be. You're trying to be all these things. That is the pressure that this town and that the things that it can do to you. Because like you said, you were almost like hiding because you're so in fear about the whole aging thing that you have to keep, on the one hand, it's like an asset. I got hired. I remember part of the reason E! did hire me. I thought, it'll be 2 strikes against me. I have 2 kids. I'm from the Midwest. They were like, great. Our demo is exactly women in the 40s with kids.
Wait, do you know what the first time when I started at E! we had a marketing meeting and they said, Heather McDonald is our perfect demographic. She's of this socioeconomic. She's into this stuff. She's a mom. She's married. Like, she's perfect. Everything that Heather thinks is interesting is what the show should be. So, and Ted Harbert, who is our president at the time, totally saw that. So it's like those first couple years.
That's so funny. He's who hired me too.
Yeah.
God love Ted. We love you, Ted. But where's Ted now?
Oh my God. And so when they broke up, I was like, I literally felt like it was a divorce because I did feel like I had a positive like cheerleader there, and it still was fine, but the dynamic of the place changed. And I think probably when he left E2, it probably changed for people like you too. That where he like sought out talent and saw that it was like he was a great choice, and he's still very nice. I mean, I know he went on to NBC, but I think he might be retired. I know he got remarried and is happy and is fine. But I remember seeing lots of interviews about it, about the controversy, and you always did make it very clear that that Jason wasn't anything but a delight, and I think that was great because no
I
one
meant
wanted
it.
to. Well, no one wanted to think, and it wasn't him.
It's
You know,
never
it's like
the men's fault.
no, right, and
that they're getting paid more.
right. It wasn't like it was going to like come out of his pocket or something. So
Right.
he's like, of course, you know, like of course, do what you have to do. So was it then? What was it like the last day? Was it awkward? Did you know it was the last day when it was the last day?
Yes, it was so awkward. I shouldn't even say awkward. I think it was just draining. It was very heavy for me emotionally because you have to remember, like, not only did I decide to leave and knew why I was leaving, but it wasn't like I was going to be able to share that on air with the audience and the viewers. By the way, I'm leaving because these fools don't pay. You know, I couldn't do that.
So what did you say? Did
I
you
had
have
to
a goodbye?
say, oh yes, not only to have one goodbye, but I had to say goodbye on the morning daily pop show that I was hosting live, which was like crying, like, oh my God, here it's actually happening 12 years later. I wanted to say thank you to, I mean, you know, the show's seen around the world. So I was just like, thank you to the people that watched all those years, et cetera, to the amazing crew that I work with, you know, Tom, you know, the people are my family.
Right.
So it was very emotional, but to not really say why I was leaving added this real pressure and this anxiety to the whole goodbye. Obviously the departure was not on great terms. I knew that, the executives knew that, but nobody else knew that. And so I said goodbye on the morning show. Then I said goodbye on E! News that night. Everybody's on set. I'll never forget, like, some of the people responsible for not paying were literally in my eye line past the camera. And I'm like crying and I'm like saying goodbye and I'm knowing what I'm knowing. But I had to decide in the weeks leading up to that, do I leave and then tell my story, or do I just leave and move on with my life? Like, do I tell people why I left? Like, because people immediately were like, why is she just disappearing all of a sudden?
Thank God you told your story.
But
I loved that you told your story.
That was a lot of soul searching because you have to imagine it was a lot of, oh, will you be blacklisted? Will you not be hireable? Will you be that diva bitch?
Now you're difficult.
All those things. But I did a lot of soul searching about that for really months. And then I was like, no, I have to. It's my truth. This is my story. I'll throw it on my blog.
What did your team think? Did they encourage you to
tell?
They
wanted me to tell, but they were very protective and thank you. I think they actually, thanks to them, they were at least very smart and they really wanted it to be done the right way to reflect upon me in the best possible light. They know me. They know I'm a good person, that, you know, I'm not doing this for any other reason than it was just ethically and principally wrong. But they were careful with how I told the story. You know, you have to keep in mind, like, I couldn't blackmail E! And be like, pay me or I'm going to tell the story and I'm you know, that's illegal.
That is blackmail. Yes.
It is. Like, you can't do that. So it was calculated in how I would tell. I had to tell after I was gone when my contract had officially expired. But that happened right away. I mean, I was going to tell people through thecatwalk.com, which is my website, the next day, but the story had already leaked. After my 2 goodbyes, people were too sad. They were like, something's fishy about this departure. And then it broke online or something that I was leaving over a pay disparity issue. So then I was like, well, shit, I need to own this and share the whole nuts and bolts of the situation. And I put that on my website. And I had no idea, Heather, I kid you not, I've said this a million times, but I really didn't think I thought people might care, but I just thought, oh, they'll be like, oh, chalk that one up to being, that sucks, you know, and it would go away in a day or two. But it was wild how the response to my situation, but it just spoke to the fact that it was so many women's stories and so many women are pissed off and so many people are frustrated in their own industries. So I think, you know, I know that's why the response was so huge.
Well, so I went to Podcast One first, and the owner there was, you know, very difficult to work with and very inappropriate. And in fact, he, you know, I was doing a bra ad and he made a joke, what he thought was a joke, but about, can I touch your breast? My hands are made of memory foam. I'm like, please stop. Like, I got to go. You know, he didn't touch me, but it was all on there. And that day I said, I don't want to do this podcast anymore. I never want to go back there. I didn't, you know, put a mic to myself and try to sue for $1 million. I just was like, let me just take my juicy scoop somewhere else. I've fulfilled my 1 year. Like, let me go. And he's like, well, you're not doing your podcast anywhere else. And I'm like, isn't that the point of having a podcast? Like, now this is all I have. This is the only thing that's getting anyone to my stand-up shows. The podcast makes no money at that time at Podcast One. So I was like, this is the only thing I have to sell out, to get people to come to my shows. I'm not on TV.
Right.
Like, I literally felt like Tina Turner, like, let me just have my name. Let me just have my juicy scoop. That's it. I'm not asking for one other thing. And I go, God, you know, and I go, you know, he knows it was being taped. Like, I have this audio. And people are like, you can't say that. I'm like, why won't he, maybe if he knew, like, just leave me alone. Like, no, that's blackmail. You can't do that. So then I start to do it myself, and he's shutting down every server every time. I had to beg people to resubscribe. Finally, people are like, why'd you leave podcast one? And I start to say, I'll tell you the juicy story. He must have had someone listen. Finally, he let me out, okay? And he let me have my back episodes. So then I continue my life. Then the Trump grab him by the pussy things happen. And I say to my friend, I have that on tape. I have something similar to that on tape that, was a big problem in my life. But I'm an edgy, R-rated comedian. People will probably think I should be able to take that kind of shit. And my friend goes, well, why don't you just play it? If you thought it was a joke, why don't you just play it? Who cares? You didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like he knew we were taping an ad. I have every audio, So I kind of was like, what do you guys think of this, And I feel the same way. I had no idea the reaction I would get. People that have been listening to me for a year and a half goes, Heather, your whole voice changed when he walked in the room. You started to shake. Things that I didn't even realize of how uncomfortable it was. And again, then all these other male podcasters and stuff are like, Heather's trying to sue. I'm like, I never filed for a lawsuit. I still haven't. I never did. And then
I did not know this story.
Then he made an apology saying, oh, sorry, it was a joke. Well, if it was a joke, aren't you glad I got to share your joke with all my savvy comedian listeners that love comedy? I just shared a joke,
So how did that end? You obviously have your juicy scoop.
It ended with nothing legal.
Yeah.
The story was getting wild.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of interviews. And people talk about fake news. I feel like I've somewhat coined suppressed news. And so these interviews I did never saw the light of day.
Why?
Because he hired a $1 million PR firm to shut the stories down. And Ronan Farrow in his new book talks a lot about stories that never see the light of day. You always hear about fake story, but you also hear about stories like, we'll just make the story go away.
Yeah.
That was something I was not aware of. Like, well, what is that interview I did? Oh, my boss doesn't think it's relevant anymore. Literally. I spent an hour talking to you on the phone. Okay, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. I let it go. My listeners, he was a UC Regent, which is like on a board of all the UC schools, which is a very prestigious thing. And once you get placed that, they can never fire you and you get it for 12 years. Okay?
Tenure.
Yes, but it's...
Yeah. Okay.
So the UC girls that listened to my show fought, and he finally stepped down. But again, was I on the cover of Vanity Fair? Did anyone know? To this day, people don't know. People that are entering podcasts don't know that story. I still have yet to be in a Podcast One show as a guest. And I say I've been banned. And no, you haven't been banned. We just don't think it's a good idea that we have you on. What is that?
A ban.
But it's okay. It's okay because I'm like, I have other ways to get
Does any part
heard.
of that make you wish you would have sued? I mean, you literally had evidence of a particular harassment.
No, because I felt that would minimize people who really, had it much worse than I. And what people don't realize is, could I have sued for, a certain amount of money of lost income and lost people? Yes, that's not $1 million. And the only way you can sue for an attorney to do the work is for them to sue for such an exorbitant amount so that they get paid.
Right.
That then that story is Heather's suing for $1 million because someone jokingly said, can I touch your breast? And to me, that's not me. That's not the image. I could make my own money.
But the harassment that followed and trying to own your brand and your IP and the bullying, it sounds like, that happened as a result of that. I mean, that's not exactly a walk in the park. No. And unfair, highly unfair.
But I get
the not suing thing. A lot of people ask me about why didn't I sue.
But they all think that you do too. Yeah. And then it's a stigma of that. And so I feel like I touched a lot of people that heard my story. I got letters that were like, I changed the way I reacted to people because I heard your story. That's enough for me. Mm-hmm. That's enough for me. The fact that these girls in the UC system protested and were shaking, speaking at one of those things of what's going on with the UC, and someone would go up and go, oh, we would like to get the engineering building done. And this girl's like, on Juicy Scoop, and I saw this YouTube thing, and I was like, that is to me great. And like I said, I did not get the PR. There isn't 2 movies made about me. I have met Gretchen Carlson, but being both. By the way, Gretchen Carlson is being played by Nicole Kidman in the movie, and she was being played by Naomi Watts in the miniseries. And I just think it's funny that 2 Australian blonde girls that are friends are playing Gretchen Carlson. But I think Gretchen's great, and I think her story is great, and I think all those stories and your stories helped, and my little story helped, and that's all that really matters. Like, it doesn't really, but
I agree with you. There's a little universal contribution there to helping other girls especially, right?
Yes.
Like, that are coming up in this new generation of women, and the way that this is even, I mean, I'm sure it was the same for you, like, as a result of what I did, I would hear from so many young girls literally in like 7th grade and in high school. And the class projects are about gender equality and women's place in the workforce. And I'm like, wow, that wasn't even discussed. I mean, these are college classes now that you can take about, how to represent yourself as a woman and how to negotiate and all these wonderful skills that at least the next generation is now very privy to. And they're gonna handle it. The change is happening, and this whole, in regards to the Me Too stuff, these guys got to get in check.
Well,
so at least there's a shift in the right direction.
I think that not only are you an incredible boy mom, which I think boy moms share a special bond because I feel like their male energy rubs off on us.
Yes.
And we start to get stronger and also not give a shit, which is a benefit to the boy moms. But I know you have your own podcast called Naked that's doing great.
Thank you.
And I'd love to come on that.
Yes, please. You have to.
Yes. And tell everybody
then I'm
else.
going to do the deep dive into Heather, y'all.
Oh,
we're going to, I'm going to have you crying by the end. Okay?
I would love it.
It's in my bedroom.
Oh, that's cool.
Honestly, it's it's really raw. I would love to have you on and
absolutely.
and get to know you.
And what other things can people follow you and see what you're up to?
The podcast is major because I am hosting an executive producer.
Yes.
Booking all your guests.
Yes.
It's so time consuming. Like it is, and not necessarily.